Travis Graham's sentence comes after emotional testimony from his victim's wife, father, and daughter, as well as emotional testimony from his own father.
He was such an important part of our family, and not just our family, but our extended family.
Larry Dyer is talking about his son, Randy. In June of last year, court records show Travis Graham was chasing Brandon Dyer and Jonathan Colt Moore with a shotgun over a property dispute. Randy Dyer hit Graham with his vehicle to protect his son Brandon and his friend. Graham then shot Randy in the back of the head, killing him.
He should actually be in prison for the rest of his life. There should not have been a plea bargain.
As we revealed last month, a memo shows Lafayette County prosecutor Kristen Ellis was not satisfied with the Odessa Police Department's investigation of Dyer's homicide. It states an officer failed to conduct follow-up interviews with key witnesses who were ready to help. Ellis in court called it a confusing case. Dyer's family believes the Odessa Police Department's poor investigation contributed to that confusion.
They didn't investigate it. They had no control over the evidence.
On Monday, a Lafayette County judge gave Graham the maximum sentence of 15 years for voluntary manslaughter, much different than the life in prison he faced on his original charge of second-degree murder.
I've seen some of the paperwork. They weren't signed, they weren't dated.
If Travis Graham completes his entire 15-year sentence, he will be the same age as 52-year-old Randy Dyer when he was shot and killed. At the Lafayette County Courthouse in Lexington, I'm investigator Andy Alcock, 41 Action News.
Just into Denver 7, we're learning the Department of Homeland Security has given the green light to use federal funds to help fight this wildfire you see behind us.
And this is the Junkson's fire burning in Custer County. It has now scorched more than 15,000 acres, and crews say they are not close to getting it under control. They say they had planned to make some water drops yesterday, but because of all the high winds, they had to ground those flights. Now, we have just learned they are restarting those air attacks now.
So thousands have been forced to leave their homes because of this fire. More than 230 homes still threatened at this hour. Several homes have already been destroyed. Still no word on what sparked this fire.
So let's bring in Lisa Hidalgo right now with a check on our first alert forecast. Lisa, what's the fire danger looking like today?
You know, it's still pretty high as you get farther south. Wind speed's not as big of an issue. Today you're going to find speeds anywhere from about 10 to even 30 miles per hour, covering parts of southern Colorado, which is why we are still seeing some red flag warnings popping up there this afternoon. Now, yesterday they were obviously covering a good portion of the state. Today you're going to find with relative humidity dropping below 15%. It is cooler across southern Colorado, but still warm enough and, again, dry enough that we do have a few red flag warnings in place. Getting us back a little closer to home, low mid-50s right now. It's a lot cooler than where we were 24 hours ago. Boulder right now 53, City Park 52, and in Aurora you're at about 55 right now. Highs this afternoon will climb into the 60s. We're expecting some low mid-60s here by about 4 o'clock. A cooler day, and we could see a few showers. The bad news is, you guys, not any of this rain moving far enough south to help out with those fires. We'll keep an eye on it, though, and I'm going to show you what it looks like on Futurecast coming up.
Victimized over and over and over again. Inside this mobile home park is where investigators say 43-year-old Eric Castillo had sex with his 15-year-old victim multiple times a day for roughly 3 months. They say the girl got here on a bus from Las Cruces after Castillo reportedly sent her father in Mexico money 3 or 4 times. Investigators say the father provided Castillo with the girl's birth certificate and a letter giving the girl permission to be with Castillo in the United States. All of this, they say, stemming from a phone call the girl's brother made to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children asking for help.
There are so many aspects to this that cause trauma.
Sergeant Dan Steele is a part of the Rocky Mountain Innocence Lost Task Force. He cannot discuss the specifics of this particular case, but he says children sometimes just do not understand what's going on.
I think many of the kids don't recognize that they're being victimized or exploited. Sometimes that's because of the trafficker. They've done a good job of manipulating them into believing that they've chosen this lifestyle.
The sergeant's comments are timely.
Our mission is to protect the American people, especially our children, from harm.
On Tuesday, the task force detailed how it rescued 9 children, arrested 11 pimps, and 32 child sex customers in a 3-day sting just last week.
Obviously, we want to bring those who are exploiting our children, hold them accountable, but without question, the main priority is rescuing and helping those children who are being exploited.
That's certainly true of the 15-year-old girl who they rescued in early September. According to records, she was not held against her will, but did not have anywhere else to go. Now, Castillo faces 3 felony charges, including sex assault on a child and human trafficking. We found his brother, who did not want to comment. Castillo is scheduled to be in court on Thursday. In the newsroom, I'm Ryan Luby, Denver 7 investigator.
This deal was really pushed by the U.S. Because what happened, 2 important things happened. You know, this is U.S. leverage that really pushed the U.S. to intervene. One was the October 8th bombing of the funeral of a tribal chief, killing 140 people, including precisely the kind of people, tribal chiefs and sheikhs, that you need to hold the peace in Yemen. So this was a huge human disaster. UN Chief Ban Ki-moon calling it a possible war crime. The second, and this has been largely overlooked because the Yemen conflict is overlooked, is that the U.S. for the first time last week directly targeted rebel positions in Yemen. What happened was that there were some missile strikes at a U.S. warship. They didn't hit the warship, but the U.S. had to retaliate, essentially was forced to retaliate because, what we're talking about here is the Red Sea navigation. This is a very strategic area, particularly the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. It's a gateway for oil tankers going to Europe via the Suez Canal. So you could see the U.S. hesitation. It was a very moderate response, but they simply had to intervene. What the U.S. does not want to see is mission creep. Don't forget that the U.S. is a Saudi ally, but the U.S. has never had a problem with Houthi rebels. They are a Shiite group. They come from the impoverished north. They are not a threat to U.S. interests. What was a threat to U.S. interests was Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, who are Sunnis and a sort of natural enemy of the Houthis. The U.S. has been dragged into this because it is a supporter of the Saudis. The Saudi campaign is extremely unpopular. Anti-U.S. sentiment was anyway high in Yemen, and now the U.S. sentiment is rising even further. If there are direct strikes, the U.S. does not want to see mission creep in this area, and so you can see Washington arm twisting all parties to come together to hammer out this deal.
The ceasefire is due to start just before midnight local time, and it's meant to last 3 days. What are the chances of it holding?
Well, ceasefires have not lasted. This is a 19-month conflict. So to be realistic, there's not that much optimism. For a real deal to hold, what is really needed, like with all wars, is a political solution. Now, one of the main problems of the Yemen crisis is that we tend to look at it as a regional problem between Sunni Saudi Arabia versus Iran-backed Shiite rebels. But the problem is, it's very much a domestic issue. Now, Yemen is a very notoriously difficult country to administer. Administering Yemen has been likened to dancing on the heads of snakes. The problem is the current president, President Hadi, is not a dancer, and he by far cannot dance on the heads of snakes. So what we have now is a leader with very little political support. And because he lacks political support, he's had to turn to his northern powerful neighbor and his western allies. But really, administering Yemen is a bit like administering countries like Somalia and Afghanistan. These are countries with long histories of conflict, well-armed populace, and you need a sort of a big tent approach and Yemen has a past history of that. A player can make an alliance with a former enemy. All parties need to be together at the table. The Saudis are essentially propping President Hadi, who's not even in the country right now, has no political support, and has never made any outreach to the Houthis. So in order for the Saudis to yield on this and for President Hadi to yield on this, Washington needs to make sure that there is a really inclusive deal that also includes economic packages, because this conflict began in an impoverished north. So we should stop looking at this. I mean, it is true that it's a regional game, but essentially the nuts and bolts of Yemen need to be worked out for this peace deal to hold, really.
A double shooting on the plaza. The recent crime has some worried that the popular shopping district could have a violence problem. 41 Action News reporter Brian Abel is live on the plaza right now, and you've talked with people there. What are they telling you, Brian?
Well, Dee, most people we talk to say, yes, they have seen a rise of violence here on the plaza when they never had to worry about their safety when coming down here. Now, they're having to look over their shoulders when the sun goes down.
A beautiful 80-degree Sunday night on Casey's Plaza. O'Malley Bailey performing unknowingly just feet away from the site of a double shooting.
I mean, it's been pretty cool as far as I see. Security has always been around, and police officers patrol through.
That security wasn't able to stop bullets from flying just before 8 Saturday night after what witnesses say was a fight that started in It's Sugar and spilled out onto 47th Street before the gunfire. A man and woman were hit in the leg, but are expected to be okay.
Would you expect something like that to happen in a place like this?
No, not at all.
Joe Noble is visiting Casey from Tennessee. He says he's always felt safe coming here, but news of the shooting is changing that.
Yeah, just watch where I'm doing a little bit more closely.
That's bad. I mean, that's really bad, especially in a neighborhood like this, and we bring in a lot of people outside.
Casey area native Antonio Taylor says the violence makes him choose Zona Rosa instead of the Plaza more often than not.
I just don't feel too much safe being down here.
Taylor points to poor parenting being the root cause.
If they want to come down here with them, watch them, see what they're doing. Be with them, instead of letting them loose.
If the shooting isn't an isolated case and violence continues here, it could lead to less tourism and silence the music.
Yeah, it really would, because, feeling safe out here, I mean, I'm going to be able to be comfortable.
Now, just a short while ago, we did check with KCPD on Saturday night shooting. They say they still have made no arrests. Reporting live on the Plaza, Brian Abel, 41 Action News.